Let's take you further afield this afternoon. Former U.S. President Donald Trump was in court this week in a case connected to payments alleged to be hush money to adult film star Stormy Daniels. It's alleged Trump paid Daniels in order for her to keep their affair a secret during his presidential run in 2016. I believe it was around 3 separate hush money payments. But let's get clarity on that. Voice of America correspondent Paul Ndiho joins us from Washington this afternoon. Paul, it's great to talk to you. Great to see you. It's an incredible story, isn't it? And I understand that David Pecker, this former tabloid publisher, is going to be on the stand again today for a 4th day.
That's correct. David Pecker, the former publisher of the Inquirer, is getting back on the stand. Trump's lawyers will get an opportunity to talk to him, to poke holes into his testimony. A lot of people have said that Mr. Pecker was a very credible witness on the stand. So the defense lawyers are going to look at poking holes in his testimony, meaning that once there are some things that he said, a lot of people have said that those were not true. He could not corroborate certain things. So I think the goal here is to get Mr. Pecker to either recount some of what he said. So, but ultimately, Trump looks like they're out there to get him to at least to clarify some of the things that he said on the stand.
So just to clarify, Paul, Pecker was apparently instrumental in coordinating 3 hush money payments. The one was to the publisher of the one was to a Trump Tower doorman who said that he had a child out of wedlock. $150,000 was also paid to another woman who's a former Playboy model who said she had an affair with Trump. And of course, it's the $130,000 US that was paid to Stormy Daniels in October of 2016. And David Pecker was instrumental in coordinating these payments. How did he get involved in coordinating these hush money payments?
So it looks like the 2 gentlemen have had a relationship that goes back years. So what happened in this particular case, they had to figure out a way to clear this money, not to look like it was being paid for a crime that was committed or for hush money, like they have called it. So what they did, they had to use a third party, and in this particular case, they had to look for somebody who had like an outlet where they could channel this money. One of the Playboy models was employed by David Pecker. That's Kerry McDowell, who was paid $130,000. You also have other people who, so Trump hired Pecker basically to be the guy who sources out for people trying to sell stories against him. And once they figured out who had the story, who wanted the money, then the money would make, exchange hands. So Pecker's role there was the guy who had the deep pockets. They could not trace the money back to Mr. Trump. And so he was, like a lot of people have said, the guy they used to pay those hush money payments.
Right. And as you say, Paul, it's not about the hush money payments per se, but it's around how Trump illegally marked the payments, essentially how he accounted for the payments insofar as his business records are concerned.
Yes, that's correct. The whole thing is they had to figure out how to account for the money. It was coming from the campaign contributions, so you can't use campaign contributions to pay off people. So that's what the problem is. And I'm not a lawyer, but a lot of lawyers would say that's where the crime was committed, because they used that campaign contribution money to pay off some of these people to keep quiet. That's how the crime was committed. But again, they had to look for somebody who was not part of the campaign, somebody who was outside of this campaign. And that's how David Pecker and Michael Cohen was the go-between David Pecker and Donald Trump. And once Trump made the payments, they would go through Michael Cohen. Then Michael Cohen would send the payments to David Pecker, because he had a platform to cover up some of these payments.
Right. Okay, so this is, let's just stay on the hush money trial for a moment before we get to the Supreme Court matter. Trump obviously making his lawyer's job quite a bit more difficult because he's been defying the gag order, right? The prosecution on Tuesday capturing Trump's defiance in one line, saying that he knows he's not allowed to do this, and he does this anyway. And they were bringing up former tweets from the former president.
It's an incredibly hard job for any judge, any prosecutor out there to try a person who is the presumptive Republican nominee for the United States. A lot of people already look at it as a political stand. Him being in court is being looked at as the other party trying to keep him away from a campaign trail. So it's very, very hard for a person running for president who is the presumptive nominee for the Republican Party not to have an opportunity. While the other witnesses, for example, Michael Cohen, is out there speaking about Mr. Trump. So Mr. Trump, in his wisdom, thinks that it's okay to go out there and speak as well, because this is the only platform that he has. Just for context, remember that every time Mr. Trump has appeared in a court, whether it's with these criminal trials or whether it's he's falsifying court documents and property documents, the hush money trial, every time he has gone to court, his reviews just hit the roof. So Trump has no way of really telling his story when he is in the courtroom. So the only way he can do that is sometimes to defy the order. And let's not forget that this is one guy who has tested the system. The system has never been tested for nearly 200 years. So Trump feels this is the only time he can test the system. And frankly speaking, he has a legitimate right or wrong, but he has a legitimate right to try to put his story out there, because short of that, he can't do otherwise.
Let's go to the Supreme Court matter, Paul. Trump obviously believes that he's immune from charges of trying to overthrow the 2020 election. Do you think, and I mean, this is probably a difficult question, but has his lawyer made a sort of compelling argument to this end? And how can he possibly believe that he is immune from these charges because he was the sitting president at the time?
Well, that's why I said that President Trump is the only former president or anybody in this case who has ever tested the United States. This is the system that has been around for over 200 years, and no former president or sitting president has ever tested the system. So the reason he's arguing that he has absolute immunity, there's a lot of gray area. There's the ambiguity when it comes to the law that governs this country. As the president, you have leverage over so many things. He could be right that he has immunity, but that's not for us to judge. I will let the courts do that. But when you think about it, what does that say about the American system? The American system prides itself as a country based on the rule of law. So if he's allowed to get away with that, what will happen going forward? Could this be opening up a Pandora's box? So a lot of people are looking at it from two different angles. But if you ask Republicans, of course, they would say this is President Trump is being prosecuted. And if you ask Democrats, they say the law has to take its course. So until all that happens, until the Supreme Court really settles this matter, it's not going to go away.
Yeah, Trump's lawyer making that, his legal team making that exact argument that this is a precedent-setting case, if indeed the Supreme Court does find against him. But I mean, those on the other side will say, yes, absolutely, it is a precedent-setting case, and not in the negative way that Trump is trying to convince the court.
You see, again, Trump has used this to his advantage. He's a very skilled person, an astute politician as well. That's why he's able to stay on top of everything, on top of the headlines, trying to pitch his narrative. But on the other hand, when you look at the system, you look at, for example, Jack Smith, who brought up these charges against him, they argue that nobody, whether you're president or not, is above the law. And if they follow that to the letter, then Trump is not above the law. But then what we have a conservative, we have a justice system here that the Supreme Court is led by 9 judges. 6 of those judges are conservative judges. 3 of those judges were appointed by President Trump. So there's some kind of a royalty there. But if they followed the law, I think they will have to either dismiss the case or send it back to the lower courts, or ultimately declare that nobody in this country has immunity regardless of what position you hold.
Yeah, absolutely. Equal before the law. Paul Ndiho is our Voice of America correspondent joining us live there from Washington. Thanks very much for that.